Hello, airplane fans. Today we have a 1/400 scale version of the AN-225 Mriya and the Buran Space Shuttle. Two non-existent vehicles today, sadly. So this is made by a German brand called Herpa. They make all sorts of scales of vehicles, cars, planes, buses, commercial trucks, some military vehicles. They have a website. They have a catalog of all their stuff there. Oh boy, this thing is so big. I was debating if I should even put this in the photo booth, but I want the light of the photo booth here. So here's a little blurb on the inside cover here. Right. 6 low-rev D18T engines, 230 kilonewtons of thrust. Can hold. All right. You can pause and read that as you wish. I did some research on Wikipedia. Hopefully it's right. Let's see what else is here. Look at that. Cool. That's a nice rear view of it. This plane is so big. That's a person right there. That's a truck right there. Granted, it's far away. That truck is closer, and it's still so huge. Registration CCCP 82060. This was back when it was called the Soviet Union. This is before Russia was a country. So this is the Cold War, the end of the Cold War era. This is a diecast airplane, but the shuttle I think might be plastic. So it's got a pretty tall, which I guess it has to be, vacuum formed top, and the part number of the plane there. And then we have the shuttle. Yeah, the shuttle is plastic because I'm not sure why, to be honest with you. Why wouldn't this be made of diecast if the rest of it is, but whatever. Plastic is lighter to ship around. So there's the Herpa logo. I don't know what's going on there. Probably landing gear hatches. You can see the mold lines. There's two ribs inside of this thing for strength, but you're seeing the cooling lines of those ribs. Yeah, the CCCP and the old Soviet Union flag. You can see a printing here of some sort of tiles, you know, the heat tiles probably. Unfortunately, this thing doesn't open. Alright, you know what, So while we're looking at this, this Buran shuttle is supposed to be 62 tons in weight. It's supposed to have a payload of 30 tons. Yeah, the development started in 1980, and it made one uncrewed flight in 1988. So it was like a remote-controlled flight or an automatic flight. There were no people on it. But sadly, this thing was destroyed in 2002 because the storage hangar collapsed. Some poor engineering of the storage hangar there. It was meant to hold the commander, a pilot, an engineer, and mission specialists. I don't know what the maximum crew was, though. And then it has an automatic landing system, which is why they were able to do an unmanned flight back in 1988. Alright, well, it's very similar to the US space shuttle. You know, you got the little thrusters and stuff like that here and there to control it in space. There's some Russian text, I guess, and some indication of some wacky tiles, I guess, there. It's very much looks like the American space shuttle, a glider, essentially, right? All right, let's put that aside. Let's, boy, this is big. All right, there's some protective plastic for both of the things. Some landing gear parts here. Not landing gear parts. I think they're to hold the shuttle onto the plane. Now this is die-cast because it's very heavy. In fact, it's so heavy I'm afraid to lift it out. I'm going to have to flip this over. So you have the many layers of foam glued together here to build this structure. And see the wing support is higher there on the ends. Right, so it's smart how they did the packaging for this. We might as well start looking at the bottom since I'm holding it in this place here. So we have a bunch of, I don't know, I think they're plastic tires can see a little bit of the hub detail, the landing gear hatches and stuff. It's interesting they're individual for each set of wheels. It's not just one big door. That seems odd, right? Doors for each set of wheels up front. Wikipedia was saying this will kneel down. There's no cargo hatch in the rear to save weight because they want to have it will carry, the shuttle and the booster rockets. So the only way to get cargo in and out is through the front. The whole front will lift up, and the wheels will kneel down so it can load some stuff in. Boy, what else? We got a red stripe going around this whole thing. This is a gray color up front. The radome area. The windows are just printed on, which makes sense. I mean, it's a really small model. It's a big model, but it's a small model of a giant airplane. You can see some ribbing here in those engines. The back of the engines, there's a different silver and opening there. I don't know what these are. There's metal shielding, it looks like, and a hole. Maybe they're booster rockets or something. So there's no peg hole or anything like that. It's just meant to rest on these wheels. There's 3 dots back here. Not sure why. And then you'll notice the thing has 2 tails. This thing was actually developed from the AN-125, where that has one single vertical tail. But because they are going to have payloads like the shuttle, it's going to create a wake turbulence and disrupt the rear single tail. So that's why they have a twin tail, because the cargo is going to mess up the airflow. And you want to have clean air going through wings so the control surfaces work properly. Alright, the old Soviet Union flag there. Yeah. The sickle and the hammer, I believe it was. Okay. The registration number there, printed nicely. Okay, across the wings as well. Whole bunch of bumps. I think that must be a door, right? That's a door for a human being. So this plane is like 3 stories tall at least. It's a flying 3-story building. It's crazy. Some sort of aqueduct. So a lot of printed on details, some molded details, of course. Alright. Let me back out. I just want to talk about this plane a little bit more. There's so much to talk about. It's such a historical piece of aviation history. It was designed by Viktor Tolmachev. It was made in 1985, and it was originally designed to airlift the Energiya rocket boosters that were designed to lift the Buran shuttle, to get it up into space. And it was also meant to carry the shuttle, from place to place. After it lands, it has to get back to the refurbishing center or whatnot. There'll be a crew of 6 people in this plane. The length is 84 meters or 275 feet. And the wingspan is 88.4 meters or 290 feet. Those engines were making 51,600 pound-feet of thrust each. So you're talking, 300,000 pound-feet of thrust. Crazy. Maximum speed is 850 kilometers per hour or 530 miles per hour. Cruising speed is 800 and 500, so a little bit less than max. The range is 9,600 miles or 15,400 kilometers. Maximum fuel range, the fuel range with a 200-ton payload is 4,000 kilometers or 2,500 miles. 200-ton payload. So this thing was able to set many records. In fact, let me see here. It set 240 world records. The longest thing ever transported by air were some windmill fan blades, and that's what this thing carried. This thing would carry locomotives, it would carry tanks, and things that were not considered airliftable. But once this thing was created, it could do it. This thing even had an art exhibition. So they had the highest altitude art exhibition inside of this plane back in 2012. Let's see. It also helped Americans. You wouldn't think it would, but back in Oman, they sent 216,000 meals for American military to Oman using this plane. It was almost like 200 tons of food. During the COVID crisis, this thing was used to send medical supplies around the world. During 2017, the hired cost was around $30,000 or 23,000 pounds per hour. That's crazy. But sadly, the thing is destroyed. Negligence by the Antonov director. Those people knew the Russians were coming, and they did nothing to get that airplane out of the Ukraine. So that's it. It got destroyed. So this talks about, you know, them perhaps making a new one from parts of this. I don't know, but the estimated cost is half a $500 million, $500 million bucks. So that's a real shame. Okay. I guess that's I pretty much showed you the airplane. Now let's just see if we can get this shuttle onto it. So these little pieces seem to be made of plastic. I guess that makes sense. Oh, maybe that's why they made the shuttle out of plastic, because they knew these pins would be too weak to hold a diecast model. But if you tried to make these out of metal, they would snap. You know, unless they were made of like stainless steel or something, but then the cost would go up significantly. So there doesn't seem to be any instructions here, but I can imagine this goes here just by the spacing of the thing. The holes aren't very deep. No. Alright, so that's that one. Now this one goes around like the outside of the fuselage. Or no. These two must go here. Yeah, alright, that goes there. But then yes, what is this for? Oh, maybe these two go in. Wait a second. You know, it's interesting, this Buran has a peg stand. I think Herpa may have released this on its own without the AN-225. And so it probably had a peg stand because there's no landing gear whatsoever. Alright, so it's on there. Still mysterious as to why. I have a feeling it has to do with this hole here. But then where does this go? Oh, I see. I thought these were just molding circles, but they actually are holes. So I gotta actually get this piece of plastic into those two holes. And that goes in the die cast. Alright, so like that. Alright, that's nice. Gives a little extra bracing. I kind of wish there was a third brace here, but obviously this is going for realism and not functionality of a model or a toy. I don't know what you would call this, as a model or a toy. I'd call it a model. Alright, so you can see the way it's positioned, it's actually creating some lift. Well, I guess that would make sense, right? It's pretty heavy. The thing weighs 60 tons itself. Now the white is not the same. When you look at the photographs here, you know, they look like they're the same white. Like a really stark, bright white, right? Especially in this photograph here. This actually looks whiter than the plane. The plane might be dirty. There, it's possible the shuttle is whiter, right? But here they look very, very similar. It's hard to say. But unfortunately, this plastic is not painted white. Only the graphic of the tiles is painted white. So I think it's just like a darker plastic. So that's unfortunate. gotta get this thing. Well, no, it's so big I can't even. I'll put it on the spin thing at the end because I want to compare it to, you know, show you some other airplanes here. Alright, so when you go and take a domestic flight, you might get on like a 737. Is this a 737? Let me just double check. I keep these little name tags. Yeah, this is a 737-200. And you think, well, yeah, that's a pretty big vehicle. It's bigger than a bus, right? Bigger than a truck. They look so tiny. There was some competition. So one of the earlier competitors or earlier cargo planes for commercial reasons was the Boeing attempt, the Dreamlifter. This is based off of a 747. And this is made by Herpa as well. Okay. And this one does have a peg stand, but these things are so heavy. I would be afraid to put these on a peg stand. Like this is a solid chunk of metal, the fuselage and the wings. So I prefer them to just rest on the tires there. So you can hopefully see there is still, you know, it's small. Let me see if I can rearrange this a little better. So that's the American attempt. And then this is the European attempt, the Airbus Beluga XL. This is the larger of the Belugas, being the XL. And this thing will take in a helicopter and smaller turbine fan blades. You'll see the cockpit is down below, and they have the storage up top, which is quite an interesting design. I think it's probably based off of a normal airplane, the bottom half of it. You know, just like the Dreamlifter. And who made this? I think it was JC Wings. Unfortunately, this one isn't branded on the bottom. But you'll have to look up, you know, 1/400 scale Beluga XL, and you'll find a couple of different options. And I think it's JCW, JC Wings. They have an option where you can have this not open. It comes with two different pieces. So this is just much smaller. Oh, I have a little model of a helicopter in there. Okay, I'll try to give you a top view. Hopefully you can see the size difference. You know, this is just it's in a whole different league. Just the fact that it has 6 engines instead of 4 that the AN-124 would have. Alright. And so let me pause and get some other airplanes. So here's the AN-124, also made by Herpa. I've actually seen this plane. Yeah, I think it was in Malaysia. And I thought, wow, that thing was big. So this is where it was derived from. The same engines are used between these two. The fairings don't look the same, but Wikipedia said they're the same engines. And it's a significant bump up in size. Actually, one other plane I'm going to try to squeeze in here. Something you probably might be familiar with is an A380. Right, the double-decker commercial, or just commercial airplane for passengers. And yeah, this is a big plane too. It's actually bigger than the AN-124. Oh, the company I think that made this was called Phoenix, but they don't write their brand on the bottom because they're going for realism. Okay, let's try to first look at these. So as you can see, the 225 is just crazy big. Even bigger than the A380 by a lot. Okay. So let me get these two out because I have one last plane I thought I'd show. Gotta be very careful moving these around. They're so heavy. I'm afraid of crushing the landing gear. So the last one I actually have shown previously in some of my, I don't know, what random video collection things. And this is the latest configuration. This is So after the Soviet Union collapsed, this plane, there's only one of these that was ever made. One was already kind of 60% full or something, but they never finished it because the Soviet Union dissolved. There was no funding. And so the whole space program died, of course, because the whole Soviet Union died. And then it just sat there in storage, and then they thought, well, let's use it for commercial purposes. So then Antonov Airlines, took it over. They're the ones that made the thing anyways. And now, it became a commercial airplane, and that's what, helped set so many records. So they're holding an art show in this plane, I assume, because this is the commercial version. This is the government version, the red livery, right? So essentially it's the same mold. It's just missing the holes in the top, and it's missing the space shuttle there. So all right, now let me get this thing spinning. So it's a real shame that this plane in the real world is no longer with us. I guess, Russia thought it was obviously a strategic advantage to have the world's largest airplane sitting in the Ukraine. Just think about all the weapons they could have moved with this thing. But it's just a negligence of the country of Ukraine for even letting this sit there. It was suggested to move this thing to Germany before, the Russians came, but the Antonov director didn't do anything about it. The question is, will they ever remake this? Will they make another? I don't know. All the parts are so outdated now. Maybe it's not even worth doing. Maybe they should just design a brand new airplane. I don't know. It does make me wonder when commercial airplanes will go hybrid or have all electric airplanes. That would be interesting. I guess this has to do with the weight of the batteries, but there's some new battery technologies coming that should be lighter, and if they are, I don't see why you can't have electric airplanes. Okay, well, anyways, model-wise, this is fine. It's a Herpa. Not much goes wrong with that company. It's a German company, and not to sound ethnocentric, but Germans generally don't mess around. They generally don't make garbage. I'm not sure if I've ever really heard of a piece of junk being made by that country. That country for some reason tries to make high quality products, maybe over engineered. That may have been, so this is a fine model. And it seems to be in the 1/400 scale airplane world. They only make one run, and that's it. So if you like this thing, you better buy it soon, because unless they literally make a new airplane in the real world, I'm gonna guess Herpa will never release this livery again. But correct me if I'm wrong. That's just my experience from collecting these airplanes. All right, well, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next airplane video, although it's pretty far and few between. All right, bye now.